Caroline Roodhouse is the author of the Amazon bestseller Daddy Blackbird and a specialist in workplace suicide awareness. She offers practical guidance and resources for organizations looking to implement the BS 30480 standard. Please introduce yourself and tell us more about the new BS 30480 standard and why it is important to you.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I wrote the book Daddy Blackbird, which became a bestseller on Amazon. It's all about my experience of losing my husband to suicide. Since writing that book, I've become heavily involved in supporting organisations with suicide awareness and everything that relates to that. I became a committee member for the British standard BS 30480, which was launched last year, all about suicide in the workplace. And having been part of the committee, I was then asked to write the First Steps Guide to support organisations in terms of implementing this standard, not just downloading it.
Why is the standard such a landmark in corporate governance rather than just another HR policy?
Sure, well it's not an HR policy, far from it. It's a comprehensive guide put together by 70 different organisations, all experts in their field in the world of suicide prevention, intervention and postvention. It's the new gold standard. It brings all of this together. And if organisations are aware that it exists and they aren't following it, the question is, why not?
What are the specific risks, be it legal, financial or reputational, a board might face should they choose to ignore the standard?
So it's a great question. The standard is not legally binding, but it is ethically, morally and legally super helpful for organisations that might find themselves, for example, in a case of negligence, when they've not supported someone through their mental health. Reputationally, this could be a huge catastrophe for an organisation if it's considered that something like this existed and it wasn't followed. It could be a massively costly situation in more ways than one.
How does this standard differ from existing wellbeing initiatives?
So this isn't another wellbeing initiative. Things like your EAPs, your mental health first aiders, all very reactive tools in the workplace. When it comes to something like this standard, it's a hugely comprehensive tool covering everything organisations need to know in terms of culture, psychological safety, when we're looking at things like suicide prevention all the way through to intervention and postvention at the end, looking after people who have been impacted by a suicide. So it's the holistic approach rather than those one-off moments which could be related to any sort of mental health issue. This is all about suicide awareness in the workplace.
How should it be integrated into current health and safety management systems?
So in terms of integrating this into systems within workplaces, it's all about making sure that it's comprehensive, it's covered at every level across the whole of the employee life cycle. When we're starting to look at things like inductions, all the way through to return to work interviews, those sorts of things, it comes down to things like behaviour frameworks in terms of how we're training and coaching leaders and managers, how we're looking at supporting mental health first aiders. I've worked with several organisations who are already looking at implementing this. For example, Aureos, a construction company, Heathrow are already early adopters of this, running some of the workplace sessions that I've been doing to help educate organisations on what adoption looks like. We've got organisations from every type of sector, including construction, transport, education, financial services, all looking at making sure that this is adopted fully across the whole of the organisation rather than just pockets.
What are the top 3 tangible actions directors should take to signal they are adopting the principles of this standard?
Firstly, make that commitment visible. So make a statement from leadership that this is something that you're backing all the way. BSI have a pledge on their website where you can sign up and endorse it. Show people that you're committed to this. Talk to your employees, let them know, and more broadly, communicate that out to stakeholders, supply chain, everyone that needs to know that this is something that you're committed to. So this is all about making resources available. This doesn't have to be a costly exercise, but some resources will need to be thrown at this in terms of things like specialist training, making sure that you're applying resources to cover a role that oversees this, a kind of lead awareness role. And more broadly, beyond that, making sure resources are available to keep reviewing what's going on in your organisation. There's some really useful appendices in the standard, one of which covers benchmarking questions, how to self-evaluate and make sure you know what's going on within your own organisation, asking the right questions. That takes time, resources, commitment, so make sure that this sort of thing has the backing and the funding. So thirdly, this is all about keeping this out there, maintaining communication, making sure that people know this is something that isn't going away. Signing up to something like the standard, communicating that on World Suicide Prevention Day is not enough. This needs to be something that covers 365 days of the year to let people know you're serious about it. So one point I do want to add to that is that the standard is not a stick to beat organisations with. It's a support tool. It's there to make this work easier, more accessible, more approachable. It's full of practical guidance. Please don't be afraid of this standard. Dig in, get to know it, work your way through it in time, and follow all of the practical guidance within it.
Is the standard just for large corporations with HR budgets, or can SMEs and smaller firms implement it effectively?
This standard has been purposely written for every organisation, so you might have huge organisations building this into every part of their framework. You might then have an SME that takes very gentle steps towards implementing it on a day-to-day basis in very small units. It's scalable, adaptable, and there are 5 very clear steps that talk organisations through it, depending on the sector that they're in, the size that they're in, the type of employees that they have, and the type of work that they do. So the first of those 5 steps is all about awareness for organisations. It's all about making sure that message is coming down from senior leaders. This is something we're committing to. This is something that we're throwing resources at to make sure that there's a lead in place, and we're looking at things like policies to make sure that we're covering all of this. Secondly, we're talking about awareness of basic understanding, the myths that exist around suicide, the language to use and not to use. Thirdly, we move on to talking about the frameworks that exist around supporting people. Where do we signpost people to when they need support? The next one is all about crisis conversations, really important one. What do I do if somebody comes to me and says they're thinking about taking their own life? How do we make sure that people in our organisations understand how to respond in those moments? And finally, the last step is all about postvention, putting care in place for people who have been impacted by a suicide. All of those 5 steps can apply whether you're a huge global organisation, an SME, or even a freelancer.
Discussing suicide might put the idea in someone's head or create legal liability. How does the standard debunk this myth?
Really, really great question. So the standard covers a whole number of myths and misconceptions around suicide awareness and prevention. And the top one being, if we talk about suicide, it's going to put the idea into someone's head. There is no research that suggests that is the case. On the flip side of that, asking somebody if they're feeling suicidal or considering taking their own life gives them the option to say yes, and I need support. It's a really powerful question to ask, and it's not one to be afraid of. I know we can be concerned about how we respond to that. Listening, being calm, understanding the situation, knowing where to signpost people to, continuing to check in afterwards, all of these things matter. Huge amount of support within the standard and within training that I'm able to support with to be able to help with these moments. There's also great training out there, specialist training, and a whole section in the standard on commissioning the right sort of trainer with the right sort of skills and lived experience as well.
What guidance does the standard offer for safe communication on an organisational level?
Yeah, in terms of safe communication, there's a vast number of sections within the standard which cover all sorts of different things in terms of communication, how we listen to employees, how we take on board what they're telling us that they need in terms of support, the sorts of language that we use in day-to-day communications and who is using that kind of language, the sorts of things that we shouldn't be saying in these conversations in the moment. All of this exists throughout the standard, and there's step-by-step guidance, toolkits for HR people, toolkits for line managers, all within that standard. Crucially, there's also a safety plan template for line managers to go through with their staff to talk about the sort of support that might be needed at the point of crisis. Really great tool that everybody should know exists and be able to use. So one of the things that I've been running since the standard was launched is sessions, workshops, training sessions, all about implementing the standard. It's now been downloaded 9,000 times in over 100 countries. Amazing number. What we want now is organisations to implement what's involved, taking steps towards getting this stuff put in place. So the practical sessions that I'm running help organisations to do that. Talking about the 5 steps, what's involved. I offer tools and templates, statements for senior leaders, all sorts of different resources that will help organisations put this in place, and a really practical 3-month plan to go with it. So if you need any more information about that, I can certainly help organisations get that started.